What options do we have? So one of the things that we might want to think about when we're thinking about whether we should accept the idea that we don't control which beliefs we form is um, if we're going to reject this, then what are we going to say instead? So if we, in other words, if we're rejecting doxastic involuntarism, which version of doxastic voluntarism are we going to want to defend? There's three versions that we're going to consider here. So one, I'm going to term insane doxastic voluntarism. So this is a version of this thesis which I think is overly strong to the point where nobody can reasonably accept it. So this is the idea that it is possible for us to choose to believe any proposition at any time. So to show that this is seemingly quite strong, consider whether you can currently just choose to believe that The Rock is the president of the United States currently. So if you have a go at that, I'm confident in predicting that you will not be able to do it. You will not be able to convince yourself that The Rock is currently president instead of Joe Biden. So because you cannot simply choose to believe these things that go contrary to your evidence, it seems like insane doxastic voluntarism is not a thesis that we can maintain as true. So what are some other options that we have? So one option might be what is termed evidential tiebreaker doxastic voluntarism, which is quite a wordy title review. But this theory of doxastic voluntarism is understood as when the evidence, or when what takes to the evidence to be, doesn't settle whether to believe that P, it is possible for one to choose. It is possible for one to choose to believe that P, and this is kind of reminiscent of what James was saying before. So this is the idea that if the evidence doesn't settle, whether we can, so it doesn't settle what to believe, so our beliefs aren't automatically tracking some evidence, then maybe that's where the control comes in. So we can choose to believe as long as the evidence isn't kind of overwhelming in our minds where we automatically believe. And then thirdly, we could go for what's called pragmatic doxastic voluntarism. And this is the idea that, quote, when one believes that pragmatic considerations decisively count in favor of one's believing that P, it is possible for one to choose to believe that P. And so the example that maybe comes to mind here is what we were talking about in one of the previous lectures from James, where we were thinking about whether you have an illness, and if you want to try and convince yourself that you have a good chance of getting better in order to try and pragmatically make it more likely that you'll get better. So I've said here that in terms of doxastic voluntarism and these theses about your control over your beliefs, maybe James can be seen as advocating a hybrid view between 2 and 3. So there's something in there about this evidential tiebreaker stuff, and there's also something in there about this pragmatic stuff. But in both of these cases, which seem more plausible than the first kind of insane characterization, it seems like these are ways in which we could argue we have some control over our beliefs.